I now call to order this September 2nd Friendswood City Council meeting and announce that we have a quorum. Please stand for tonight's invocation, which will be led by Pastor B.J. Roy of Calvary, Houston. And then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the pledge to the Texas flag.
Thank you. Please join with me in prayer. Heavenly Father, as we close out 2024 and we look forward to 2025, we would be remiss if we did not thank you for your divine protection, for your blessings, for your guidance, and for your presence during this last year. Father God, we pray that you would continue to use this distinguished body that you have called and given the awesome responsibility of leading the city of Friendswood. Father God, that you would bless them and guide them in all of their decisions. I pray that you would watch over each member of this body. Father God, that you would protect them, that you would guide them, that you would cover them, and that you would just surround them with good health, Father God, that they could lead in a way that you've ordained. Father God, we echo the words of Moses, who wrote, "If your presence does not go with us, we do not want to go. Leave us here." Without your presence, our worship and our very existence is vain. So, Father God, we pray that you would go before us. We pray that you would continue to lead us according to your holy word. I pray, Lord God, that you would continue to direct and guide these here tonight. I pray that you would pour out your wisdom and lead them in all the things that they have to face as they govern this beautiful city. Father, I pray that you would bless the work of their hands and bless the meeting of the city council tonight. In the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, next on our agenda are the council member comments and reports. I'm going to go a little out of a turn tonight, and I'm going to go first. I wanted to announce that the city of Friendswood has lost one of its longtime volunteers and the current vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Richard Sasson. After courageously fighting for the last 3.5 years, Richard lost his battle with pancreatic cancer today. He will be greatly missed, and my prayers go out to the family for comfort, strength, and peace during this time. Councilmember Ellisor.
Well, I just want to say that I'm got a lot to be thankful for, and thankful for each of you being here tonight, and thankful to live in Friendswood and for the grace of God.
I have just a couple of things. One, would like to extend my prayers and for peace and comfort for the Sasson family. Valiant battle has been fought, so he showed us how to fight. On a lighter note, tomorrow evening, the Historical Society will be having their annual tree lighting with wassail and gingerbread made by the Heritage Gardeners. We also have the Friendswood, and they made their intro last year. It's a great group of folks who play instruments. They'll be playing, and then we're also treated to some singing by the Friends Church Children's Choir. And then I hear the jolly old elf himself, the main man of the season, will be there also potentially. So please join us. And then in the spring, and I just want y'all to be thinking about this, the CEDC is going to host the Small Business Week again, the first week of May. So I'd love for y'all to be thinking about that. It was a great event last year. We have a lot more time to plan this year, so it'll just be even bigger and better. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I am also very thankful that we live here in Friendswood with a community of volunteers, and I appreciate our Parks Department, KFB, and the Chamber for everything they're doing to celebrate this holiday in Stevenson Park. It's a beautiful place to walk at night with all the lights and all the different organizations in town that are contributing to our quality of life. And Richard Sasson was definitely a giant among us. Quietly, sometimes not, going about making changes like getting the poles down that had ugly wires that we didn't need, and just quietly did that as a citizen, a private citizen, and then served on PNC. And I think that's what makes Friendswood such a special place. It's the people and our faith and our camaraderie and our willingness to roll up our sleeves and help one another. And so I also pray for his family, and I thank him and his family for all the sacrifices they made for our community.
Yes, I too want to mention Richard Sasson. What a great guy. I just hope that his family are sustained at this time, and just pray for his family. I also want to wish everybody a happy belated Thanksgiving. I hope everybody didn't eat too much, and I wish everybody a happy, Merry Christmas that's coming up on the 25th, which is my birthday. And I also want to mention that it has been my honor and privilege for the past 7 years to represent you all. And it has really been, I'm just so grateful for the trust that you all have placed in me. This has been a particularly difficult year for mayor and council. Some of the most complicated issues have arisen up here on the council. But I do feel like I do want to run again. I feel like I want to put my voice forward. And I just hope that you all continue to support me in doing so. And if you don't, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. But I do appreciate, and I do want to thank all of y'all for the continued support and help that y'all have given me in the past.
I just want to echo what everybody said about the Sasson family. One of the best volunteers we've probably ever had in this city. I've known him for probably 25 plus years. Went to his daughter's wedding years ago, and he fought a huge fight, and a lot of people had no clue what he was going through and what he continued to do for this city. And I want to thank his family for letting us borrow him to do all the things he did. And there wasn't many like him, and my heart goes out to his family.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't also wish everybody happy holidays and a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Anything else? Okay, next is our public comment period. It is now open. To comply with the provisions of the Open Meetings Act, the City Council of the City of Friendswood cannot deliberate on any item not listed on the agenda. As such, the City Council will listen to public comment and may refer an item to City Management for further action or direct staff to place an item on a future agenda. During public comment, we ask that everyone attending this evening please comply with the Council's rules of decorum.
This is us. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So I have one speaker card in front of me, Miss Deborah Winters Cheney. Good evening.
Hello everyone. Deborah Winters Cheney. I live at 1008 Applewood Drive. And what I want to speak to you about is I went to the Galveston County Drainage District meeting this morning, and I was very surprised and concerned that there has been really no drainage plan put forth yet, no communication that the Galveston County Drainage District has received from the developer or really from the city. And I guess my question is, I have always thought that the drainage district was very involved in development that goes on in the city. And apparently they don't have any information on what's going on, behind Applewood Drive, behind Wilderness Trails. And our neighborhood, we're having a meeting tomorrow night, but the residents of Wilderness Trails are extremely concerned about flooding issues. There now is a plan to have the Friendswood Parkway put in. That's an awful lot of cement, dirt removed again. There are, from 6 days a week now, trucks driving in. Apparently, the number we heard today from the drainage district is 12,000 loads of dirt are being put in, not in mounds. They're being put in and pushed down the dirt. So they're raising the elevation. And there's no drainage district plan in place. And so the drainage district is very concerned about that. And I want you all to know that the residents of Wilderness Trails are also very, very concerned about it. So I guess the city and Galveston County Drainage is not working very closely together, it appears. I don't know if that's the case. Thank you, though. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else wishing to speak, next are our work session topics. We will start with a presentation from Waste Connections regarding waste collection services.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, a brief introduction. You may recall we executed a franchise agreement with Waste Connections approximately 3 years ago, this upcoming March. As that agreement comes to a close, Waste Connections is here to discuss an extension of that franchise agreement with City Council and offer some options for your consideration. There's no action to be taken this evening. It's simply an informational session to get some questions and some feedback from Council as to how we move forward. This evening we have Zach Ryan with Waste Connections. He's their district manager, and he's going to go through a few slides and we'll go from there.
Good evening.
Thanks
for having me. So as mentioned, my name is Zach Ryan. I'm the district manager for Waste Connections, representing our operations out of Alvin and Angleton. Alvin is obviously where we operate our trucks and people from to service Friendswood. So as was mentioned, we entered into this extension on the contract almost 3 years ago, and it's coming up next year. We have some options for you all to consider, which will be a small tweak in the way that we actually operate in the city. Before I jump into that, though, I'd like to just go over some of the background of our company that you may not be aware of. So Waste Connections was founded in 1997. We currently operate in, and our founding CEO and COO actually still run the company. So there's a lot of consistency there. We operate in 46 states. We have some 8 million customers. We're in Canada. So we're a pretty large corporation. The most important thing, though, today for us and for me is the longstanding relationship we have with Friendswood that goes back over 20 years. It actually spans the course of 3 different companies, Waste Connections being the 3rd company. The overall benefit, I think, to partnering with Waste Connections is how although we have the large backing or resources of a giant corporation, we're instructed to operate very decentralized in our decision making. We're not dictated to by people in the Woodlands and Ivory Towers. We're empowered to make the decisions on the ground. The people who are closest to the trash know what's best. The one thing our company will ask us to do, though, is to operate off of these core values. So let me take one step back. We currently run and have run for this entire time frame with rear load operated trucks. So that's one driver and typically 2 people on the back of the truck hucking the trash in. It works quite well. The customers here are happy. There's from that standpoint, everything is fine. But as we're evaluating how do we continue this contract and partnership into the future, I had to look at this other option we have. And using these core values as a decision tree to move through that decision is how one of the ways by which side load has a lot of benefits. From a safety standpoint, we have less trucks in the city because we're able to operate more efficiently. We have less people. There's no people on the back of the trucks. A lot of our safety related issues and bodily harm come from those people. From a customer service standpoint, that's also where most of our issues arise, is from something to do with if the trash was put down in the wrong place, the trash can, if it fell over, if there was a mess left behind. Most of that is removed with moving to a side load truck. Obviously, we have the cleanliness of all different types of cans out in the city. We would be providing uniform cans that everybody would use. So no bags on the ground, et cetera, for animals to get into or whatever. So the other lens, if I back up here to look at it through, is we ran a pilot program in the city in Laurelfield. It was supposed to be a year. I think it ended up being a little bit closer to a year and a half. And there was no surprises. Everyone did fine. The reviews were good. People are happy to have the cans. We didn't go collect the cans that we distributed. We left them out there. Nothing groundbreaking that would say, hey, this doesn't work or won't work. Also, by the way, I should mention, this has been done thousands and thousands of times, right? As cities grow and as cities change and progress, like everything else, we go to automated systems. So the 3 options to consider for now is you could say, Zach, that's fine. Safety and customer service may increase, may be better. It's not the right timing for the city. That would be understandable based on, all the other things that you all have to consider. So we stick with the rear load option, but I would ask that this becomes like a seed planting opportunity where we say 3 years, short term, and then we look at it again in 3 years from now. We have a 5-year side load option, and then of course a 10-year side load option with a different pricing. I should note that with the side load options, nothing would change with the other parts of the service. The recycling would remain the same. The heavy, bulky pickup would remain the same. We would still be running some of those rear load type trucks for that part of the service. The only thing that would change is the type of truck that we're using and the trash cans themselves to come collect the trash. So I'm happy to address any.
How do the citizens get the correct trash can to be side loaded? I mean, are those provided by
Yes.
you all?
Yes.
Okay.
How many are provided?
We provide one for the entire city, and then
Per household.
so this price includes the price for one trash can per household. For the people who have large amounts of trash, there could be a small fee per month to have a second can.
Can they just purchase them outright if they may need 3 or 4?
Oh yeah,
That will automate and be picked up correctly with your trucks.
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It'd be let's say 3 separate cans.
And if a resident has 4 or 5 trash cans out there, and your contract is for 1, are they charged more for picking up? Right now, y'all pick up 4 or 5 of my trash cans because I don't know why we create so much waste.
Yeah.
But y'all just pick it up, and y'all are great. I mean, y'all are the best.
Right.
Compared
So
to
that's
anyone around, y'all are the best.
That is the main downside, if you want to say that there's a downside to this service. It is limited in the sense that you're limited to what you can put in the can.
Right.
My experience is that and the number of days won't change. So at 2 times a week, it's a 96-gallon container. Most of you guys have probably seen them somewhere. They are very large. I have a family of 5. I have 3 kids under the age of 10. We produce lots of trash, and usually our second service day, the can isn't full. So that's what I find to be the typical experience. In fact, when I lived in a different city that Waste Connections wasn't servicing, we were fine with 1 trash can. But I know everybody has a different amount that they use, or what I think we currently see in Friendswood is you have the majority of people, vast majority, where this service would be just a simple switch and nobody would really even notice. There's a small percentage of people who, I don't want to say take advantage, but they have larger amounts of quantity and of garbage. So what happens is, to some degree, the people who are able to kind of stick to a more reasonable amount are subsidizing the ones that don't. In this scenario, what you have is, if somebody needs more capacity, they buy more capacity. But there would be, to round this out, to your suggestion, it would be a fee, right? So this is for 1 can. If you need 4 cans, well, then you're going to pay for that extra can for a month.
Clarification though, if they purchase that extra can, there's no additional charge monthly if they bought it outright, for instance, or paid the cost of that trash can. You would pick up all 4 cans each month.
We can look at whatever makes the most sense. We have the room to do that, but typically what it is not purchased outright. It's a monthly fee, but we can, if that's not a hurdle that we couldn't discuss.
I have a question. Which one? Go ahead. You go first. I'll go.
So my concern, and I think these are pretty large trash cans. I think some folks already have them. Sometimes folks don't have the upper body strength.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have issues with that in other communities where, like, I'm thinking of elderly folks, or, sometimes
Yes,
have a hard time getting
there's
those big
ways
trash cans in and out?
There's ways. It's a good question. There's ways to address that as well. There's different types of service we offer for qualifying households, which may include going to get the trash and bring it down for them. We can even do smaller sized cans that are automated. We try to be as uniform as possible. We already have, even if you were to make this change, we're still going to have the little recycle carts and the recycle cans and then the trash cans. We try to be as uniform as possible, but there's certainly things that we can do to address that
Okay.
with
Thank
the
you.
automated truck. Yep.
That's my only
So there's no wheels on these big
Yeah, there are.
trash
Yes,
cans? There are.
there
wheels.
are,
So
but
you could,
to her point, they're
big.
quite large,
Okay.
and you
Okay.
got to lean them back.
So what is a normal trash can in gallons? Just so I can kind of picture in my head.
30, yeah. Yep.
Do most of council have the recycle carts?
Yes, I do have the big
the big-
They're about the same
recycle,
size.
about that
About
size.
that size.
Okay,
Same
Same
one.
size. Yeah.
okay, okay,
And they're 95 gallons.
okay.
It's a lot of trash, Robert.
Well,
So,
Christmas is
so
coming
one more
up, and we
question.
used to burn our trash. Now we can't do that.
So if someone has more than one trash can one day and they stick out a bag, it's not gonna be picked up.
A bag on the ground?
A bag next
So,
to the trash can, it
in-
won't be picked up.
Correct. In this service, we don't have anybody in the back of the truck.
Okay.
If it's not a ongoing issue, we encourage the men and women to step up their customer service and
Okay,
grab some
okay.
things. With
But
that said,
not
if this were something that we look at seriously moving forward, we would have a transition plan in place where for a certain amount of time we would, until the residents are educated in what
Okay.
this new service looks like. So, we can dictate that strictly in terms, or kind of just feel it out as we go and make it as easy of a transition as possible.
Okay, well, I had a couple questions.
Sure.
Just in you're a large company. You're what, the 3rd largest
Yep. Yes.
garbage company in
Yeah,
the U.S.?
behind Waste Management and Republic. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what percentage of within your company are side load pickup for municipalities versus rear? I mean, roughly. I mean, I'm not looking for an exact number, but is it 50-50? Is it
So
80% rear load?
no, I would guess closer to 50-50, but the margin it's trending side load heavily.
Okay, why is that?
Well, so as you saw with our core values, our main, and we don't just, a lot of companies, and I think, they have mission statements, and somebody reads them once on orientation day and then they never see it again. We use these core values on a daily basis to make decisions. So we try to walk the talk with our safety. And when you're eliminating the 2 people from the back of the truck, just, it becomes that much more safe and efficient immediately. So that's the primary reason. There are cost efficiencies, of course, but not at the suffering of any customer service. So it really just makes a lot of sense. The thing that I don't know that you all know is the city ready for that transition now, or will be something in the future that makes more sense?
You talked about there'd be less trucks on the roadways. Aren't the side loads a little bit smaller than rear loads?
Capacity, well, it will be at least one truck less, potentially more. But the capacity, you can get on there. You never max these trucks out, so we'll be able to get on a side load, probably a little more, right? Yeah, we'll be able to get a little bit more on.
Okay. So since I have you here, I did have a couple of really quick questions to take advantage of you being here. When our garbage is picked up, where does it go? I mean, where does it ultimately end up? That's really what I'm asking.
Ideally, it ends up in Seabreeze landfill, but we do, depending on the day and what's happening, how heavy it is, it'll go to the coastal landfill, which is over closer towards Alvin.
Okay, but Seabreeze
Right
is
outside
down
of-
in Angleton, right?
So again, Seabreeze is in Angleton,
Okay.
correct? Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once the truck fills up, it goes there unless there's special circumstances.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, only the amount of time we have, essentially. You know, all the hours are regulated by DOT. So if we're, depending on how we're running or what issues we're facing that day, we might not be able
But
to
your
get.
plans to take it to your
Yes.
facility
Yeah,
down near
all the
Angleton.
costs associated are built off of that, yeah.
What happens to our recycle material that gets put out? Where does that go?
Yeah, so recycling facilities are harder and harder to come by. The one we use primarily is ITR, which is actually north of here. So that's the only one we use.
So it goes to a third party? Is that-
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
And Coastal's technically a third party as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Either way, you know, we own the company Waste Connections owns Seabreeze. We don't own the coastal landfill.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, any other?
I did have one more. I'm sorry. I should know this, but I don't recall. What's the $22? How does that compare to what we're paying now on the rear load?
So we have a slide comparing.
Okay.
So this slide is based off of our current charges of $19.15, which is inclusive of the 10% administrative cost. The proposed column, the second one in red, is if you went with the 10-year option. And then those other numbers are what the other cities are currently paying. You'll notice, for instance, Alvin is quite a bit cheaper than we are, but they only offer trash collection once a week as opposed to twice. They have heavy trash pickup once a month instead of every week like we do, and they're on currently a side load. Related but separate on this topic, you may recall our automated water meters discussion 18 months or more ago. We had gone out for bids a number of times for manual reading services to hire somebody to go read the meters manually. The last several times we did it, we didn't get any more than one, and the last time we did it, we didn't get any responses. Some of these services are going to go away in the future, whether we want it to or not. And so do we want to be ahead of the curve in terms of education, both with our customers and provide the safety for the agency, or do we want to wait till we're forced to make the changes, in which case there's some difficulties there as well.
Zach, you see the same thing? Sorry, Trish. You see the same thing, that it's going away, the rear loaders, and because of the safety issues in the back? Is that what you see in the industry?
Yes. You know, I don't know how imminent, you know, I don't know when the last rear loader we'll ever see will be. But yeah, in general, yes. It'll become reserved for kind of more of the mom and pop type places that are using hand-me-down trucks, and then eventually it'll be phased out. But that's probably some time away. We're not at like some critical juncture here, but to get out ahead of it, it is, in my opinion, a sooner or later type of thing. And just to add some to this, you know, roughly you can add $7 to that Alvin one to equalize it, to normalize it. The Lig City and the Pearland number, I believe that's before any potential rate adjustment that they'll see this year, which would be depending on CPI, but probably somewhere between 3 and 4% when it's said and done. So you could actually increase those 3 to 4% because those are those current numbers this year. The proposed number we have would be including that going forward. So The pricing is still, even at $22, the pricing is still very competitive, and we did that on purpose.
And when you say including that going forward, is that for whatever time period, or it would be adjusted and up for readjustment each year for cost of living and that kind of thing?
Excuse me.
You said going forward, that would be inclusive. I didn't understand.
Yeah.
what you meant.
So the way the contract currently reads is the CPI evaluation. I believe there's a fuel evaluation and an operational expense evaluation. So those would be the three. We can discuss if that needs to change, but that's how we currently do it. And I didn't foresee changing that, but we wouldn't add to this price. This would be inclusive of any price increase we were going to do. We're not going to start a new contract and then do a price increase on top of what we're proposing today.
This year?
Yes.
Okay.
I've noticed that League City is still a backload and Pearland is a side load. How long has Pearland been doing a side load?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I know they recently went to a new company in 2020, and I don't know if that's when it started. That's what I would assume.
It's been at least 4 to 5 years. I recall my predecessor, Roger, lives in Pearland, and he had joked that we've had a contract here in Friendswood as long as we have that provided the level of service that they had, because he wasn't getting that service in Pearland.
And he's paying more.
He is paying more, yes. But
So that
he's also
actually
paying
doesn't
more
make
taxes
sense.
too.
Well, I don't know. We won't go into that subject, but I mean, to me, League City's got the backload and they're paying less than Pearland, who's already moved to the side load. So that doesn't quite compute.
a lot of times these prices are based off of bids, opportunities to provide a service and to win contracts. We've found in other communities in the Houston area, sometimes when they undercut the bids and then they're not able to live up to the service, there are some communities that the trash just wasn't picked up because they were unable to provide the service at the price point that they said they
Well,
would.
Houston has that issue. I don't want to have that issue. I
Correct.
want our trash picked up.
Yeah, or it's bid low to win it, and then in the near future they'll do a giant increase using language in the contract, so it ends up being offset in the end.
So what if we decided to go side load and then it blows up in our face? What are the options? I mean, can we go back to back load?
We've had a long-standing relationship with the city. I don't know what could possibly happen that would make us make that. I think most people won't even realize that it's happening other than they have a different can at their house. But we can discuss and adjust as we go. If it's just not working, it's just not working. I mean, we have, again, one of the benefits of doing business with a company like ours is we have the resources. If we need to switch and change, we have the ability to do that.
And what we can do is when this item comes back before council for formal consideration, we can put language in that franchise agreement that stipulates certain provisions and trigger points if you would like to reconsider items.
It will look a lot nicer if everybody has a uniform can as you drive through a neighborhood on crash day. I'm sorry, but I do look at things like that.
I will say we did have an employee of Friendswood's that lives in the Laurelfield subdivision that was part of the pilot program. I won't out that individual, but they said it was very well done. Didn't have any issues, no complaints from the neighbors once folks got used to the service.
Before this comes back to us, I would mention one thing, the thing that Councilmember Hanks brought up. I've had experience with side loading garbage pickup, and that is that there are times when it won't fit for whatever reason in your can, and you've got no choice but to leave it next to the can. In this, in another municipality, they'll send a truck through that goes through and picks those up first. Anything that's sitting next, so it's figure out how to address that. There's other,
So-
you know more about this business than I'll ever know.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
I don't want anyone to be concerned about that option or that
Yeah.
particular issue. We will continue to run some rear load trucks through the city on a daily basis. So if that happens, let's say the scenario happens, our men in the side load truck or women, we have a lot of women operators, if they pick up the can and they didn't get that thing, now it may have to be from a resident, but it could be from our driver, calls back and says, hey, I saw this, I can't get it, make sure so-and-so grabs it in the rear load.
Okay.
So this,
So they
that-
got contact with dispatch. Dispatch
Oh, yeah.
can go ahead and
yes,
direct it and
yes,
go. Yeah.
absolutely.
If you can
And
handle that,
if not same day, then absolutely within 24 hours.
Or you can visit Robert's house. He's got 4 or 5
Yeah.
trash cans that you can just add.
Maybe extra
Well,
room.
95 is a lot bigger than I think the 55 I had, so I'm probably get away with 2.
okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will receive an update regarding our capital improvement plan with Hill RS, our Director of Engineering. Hi, Hill.
Good evening, Council. Tonight I'll provide you an update on our ongoing and upcoming capital improvement projects. These updates cover key infrastructure improvements, ongoing construction, and upcoming contracts expected in early 2025. So let's start with Blackhawk Boulevard. The project is vital for improving connectivity and the roadway conditions. For Phase 2B, the contractor is completing the west half of the road. Unfortunately, he's had some cash flow issues, and we've had some project delays now that have resulted of that. And it doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime soon. But we've reached a point here where we can come to an understanding with them to allow them to complete the west side of that road and to minimize any further risks that we have in that, and to keep that from becoming a 2-3 year project. So if that is done, then what's remaining of Phase 2B would be incorporated into Phase 2C, and that would help ensure a seamless continuation of work between the two. For Phase 2B,
You're going to reduce some of the scope of the existing contractor and then put it into the new
yes, and
contractor.
so you would think that the cost would be like half of what the entire contract is, but a lot of the work has been done on the first half. A lot of the underground work, water line, 12-inch water line, and a lot of storm sewer. So we would expect that what's done on the other side would be a much faster endeavor. But yeah, we would have to go back and rescope this into the 2C project. So for the 2C project, 90% plans have been submitted, and TxDOT permits are in progress. Once the as-built for 2B are received, they'll be incorporated, the scope finalized, and then the package will be ready to go out for bid next year. So this phase approach will allow us to maximize efficiency and help manage costs. The total funding for these phases is $9.6 million, sourced from the Precinct 2 partnership funds that we have, from the street improvement sales tax, and from water and sewer working capital.
I get the street improvement, and we also received funds from the judge in Harris County, correct? And what is our cost share?
Our cost share is 50%.
50%.
So yeah, of that $9.6 million that you see, the city's paying 50% of that.
That's coming out of the budget and street improvement sales tax, or is it coming all out of our sales tax?
So the street portion is coming out of the sales tax, and
the drainage?
The water portion is coming out of water sewer.
Okay, thank you.
So the 24-inch water line crossing project is a critical initiative to improve water distribution. The contract is pending approval tonight. This project is going to involve installing a 24-inch water transmission main using open cut and trenchless methods. Change orders on the docket also for owner's contingency and for testing allowance as well. The total project cost, including the change order, is $4.98 million, and is funded by ARPA and water and sewer bonds. Construction timelines will follow the contract execution.
And what's our cost share on that?
So
ARPA funds, how
between
much?
this project and the next one I'm going to discuss, our cost right now, we're sitting at zero. This is 100% paid for by the ARPA funds.
Hill, do we do any capital and improvement projects 100% on our own, or do we must always try to find and partner with people to leverage the monies that we have in bond funds?
Yeah, that's definitely something that we keep in mind to help stretch out our budgets. There are projects that we have to go 100% our own, but we do have quite a bit out there that are partnership projects that are grants and in this case is ARPA funds. So right now we're sitting at zero, and we're hoping to keep it that way. So.
Back in July, you presented this same project to us, but the cost was quite a bit higher at that time.
Right.
What happened to bring that cost down?
So they came in much better than what we expected, which was a nice surprise. But that's what allowed us to go back and account for the contingency that we're proposing and for the change order. So the change order will allow for an owner's contingency, which will give the city a little bit of flexibility in whatever comes up in the process of construction, because there will always be something, and there will always be additional pipe that might be needed or additional fittings. So that'll allow that to happen in a seamless fashion also.
Could you,
And that's all. I'm sorry.
No, I apologize. Please, I thought you were done. Please.
And I was going to add that that's all 100% within the city's control. So it's not the contractor doesn't have a pot of money that to say, okay, I need this, and it's got to be vetted, and the city has to approve it.
So it's a contingency, but you guys have to approve that.
Correct. Yes.
To add to that, the other cost reduction was the realignment of this water line. Originally, it was looked at to be parallel to 2351, and we had looked several months back at taking it from Blackhawk to capitalize on some other activities.
Yeah. What you see on the map right here, that's what's being paid for out of the ARPA funds. There is a little bit of water line that will be included in the Blackhawk 2C project. There is a little bit more than what you see here, but for the most part, this is a big majority of the project here.
Okay. Well, because it was almost $10 million, like 9.6 or something like that.
Right.
Yes.
So that's well done.
Well, it wasn't a complete 50% savings. The other portion of the project is the improvements to the ground storage tank. But yes, sir, there was quite a bit higher.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
So next is our tank project at Surface Water Plant number 1. The tank project will construct a new ground storage tank to enhance water capacity and reliability. That contract is also pending tonight. And similar to the other project that I just discussed, we've got a contingency and a testing allowance, which will bring the total cost for that project to $5.02 million. So between the two, $10 million, and not a single penny of that ARPA funds is being wasted. So,
How long will that tank be out of service?
so this will probably be about a year project, and it's all really going to be dependent on we still have to have the tank itself engineered. That's all done by tank engineering companies, and then that'll be approved by our engineer, and then we're looking at a 6 to 9 month building process. So,
Thank you.
so in all, we're probably looking at about a year.
And I think about half of this you said was ARPA funds.
The totality of this is ARPA funds. The other, if I'm not mistaken.
We don't
yeah.
know what how much of our WS bonds are.
No, sir. I think the total amount of ARPA funds was right at $10 million. The combination of this and the last project were a little under 10, so maybe less than 100 to 150,000 as RR funds.
So next I have the tank rehab project. Right now they're focusing on the last remaining tank that we have, and that's at Surface Water Plant number 1, where we'll be building the new tank. By the time these guys are done, they'll be out of the way, and they won't be in the way for the other guys so that we're not running over each other. So we're expecting that to be completed here in the next couple of months, and that is a $1.9 million project that's been funded by water and sewer bonds. So next we have the wastewater master plan. This was a master plan that was awarded back in October. The kickoff meeting for this project's already been taking place. We had our Public Works Engineering, GIS folks there. So this plan is going to have several deliverables, a citywide wastewater model, similar to what we have on the water side. We've got a model that we use quite extensively when we're looking at any possible expansion to the system. We're also going to get updated flow monitoring. The flow monitoring we have, that data we have right now is from 2015. So it's pretty old now, considering the fact that our Public Works has done quite a bit of work in addressing inflow and infiltration issues that are present in every wastewater system. And then we're going to look at the possibility to consolidate lift stations. That'll reduce O&M costs in the future. There may be a few that might be that we could combine. And then we'll be developing a capital improvement plan to address any significant issues that we discover here in the next couple of months. So this is a $698,000 project, and it's funded through water and sewer bonds. And once we're done with that project, we'll be coming back to the City Council and presenting our findings to you guys.
When do you think that might be?
We're probably looking at about a year, so probably January, February of 2026. So next is the Unified Planning Work Program from the HGAC. So we've had some progress on 2 major initiatives with the HGAC. For the Friendswood Master Trail Plan, there's a consultant that's currently being onboarded, and the kickoff meeting for that will be coming here soon. So the plan is going to focus on enhancing accessibility, connectivity, and safety for cyclists and pedestrians in Friendswood. And there's a Parks Master Plan that is out there that will be presented to you guys soon. This is just going to build on what they're doing on that. They'll get into the weeds versus the Parks Master Plan. It's a little bit more high level. For the Parkway Corridor Study, we've had a kickoff meeting, and we're getting ready for our first stakeholder meeting. Public meetings for both of these projects are pending, and we'll be announcing them whenever those dates are made and available. Both of these initiatives are fully funded by HGAC, and there's no local match. So TxDOT, one of these projects where we're leveraging partners and opportunities out there. TxDOT has begun the engineering work for several carryover spending projects And this includes additional lanes at FM 528 and Bay Area Boulevard to improve the turning movements. New northbound right turn lane at FM 528 in Winding Way. Dual left turn lanes at FM 528 and FM 518. And then some restriping over on Sunset and FM 528. So these are projects that are meant to address traffic congestion and to enhance mobility as well. These projects are funded by the HGAC carryover funds, which will require a 20% local match.
Do they say at all when that might be completed?
We have not been given a date on that, unfortunately, but
Just
they
big-
do have, actually, well, he was fixing to jump out. They do have a spending deadline of August 2026, so, or 25.
Correct. These projects are going to be managed, though, by HGAC and TxDOT, so we've given them everything to where we couldn't delay the projects any further. It's incumbent on them to finish it, but we will be harping on them to make sure they meet those deadlines.
Well, I really do appreciate the funds coming from HGAC. That's really awesome.
Well, I can tell you that the Transportation Council is working very hard on these carryover dollars.
Yeah.
It's under the 5%.
They've got a huge spot. They've got a lot of projects going on region-wide, and we're fortunate to be one of those ones receiving funds. And you might notice I did mention 528 and 518. Right now, that's only going to be left turn lanes. They are gearing up for their next round of carryover projects, and they asked for possible projects from cities. And one thing that Friendswood has submitted is some right turn lanes over at beside McDonald's and beside the Jack in the Box. So cross your fingers that'll come to fruition. All right, the Friendswood Parkway, what we're calling the E-phase, is progressing, and it's pending inclusion in the statewide transportation improvement program. That's some paperwork or some red tape that they need to clear that hurdle. Should happen anytime soon, though. Environmental and preliminary engineering work will follow once that's done. So these projects that I mentioned, they all align with the regional transportation plan's goals, and they're funded by the HAC carryover funds with a 20% match.
So you may recall this is a concurrent effort with what we talked about with TERS number 2 and the projects that both Tanos Castle and JK5 are pursuing. This effort started with HGAC before those agreements were discussed. Still no guarantee who's going to get to the finish line first, so we don't want to forego HGAC's efforts, knowing that if we need to get federal funds, we have to go through HGAC's process.
This was a process that started in 2022, well back during the COVID days.
And HGAC has deemed the Pearland Parkway connection with Friendswood Parkway a valid access way, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. So next month, we've got a couple of contracts that we should be finalizing and getting ready for January. Included in that are going to be the master drainage plan to address our flood control here in Friendswood. Implementation services for a new ground storage tank at groundwater plant number 4. Implementation services for the Analia Neighborhood Infrastructure Project. Analia Neighborhood Project, that's going to result in some existing concrete roads that are in bad shape. Those will get repaired, and storm sewer will be upgraded as well. And we've got a couple of 3-inch lines, water lines, that are going to be replaced, and some fire hydrants added in once we enhance the capacity of the water system in that area. So not only will it look great, but it'll also help improve safety in that neighborhood.
Will that, I know that in Analia, there's a few houses that continuously flood for 20 plus years. Will this address those?
So one of them in particular that you're have in mind, yes, ma'am. So part of the project scope includes an enhancement of the storm sewer capacity along that section of Virginia Lane that will help.
Okay, good.
And we were very grateful for the individuals that helped us in making this happen. The Analia Neighborhood Project, that's the low to moderate income project for our COGMOG award that we got. And in the process of applying for that, those grant dollars, we were one house short of making that LMI work, and we had to go knock on some doors, but fortunately we had one of the ladies whose house is frequently floods. She answered the door, and she helped us get across that threshold. So
Great.
then also we'll have a construction contract for utility relocations of the Clear Creek Utility Bridge. That's the swinging bridge that we have over off of Poly Ranch. So these initiatives are going to be kicking off next year and are going to support the city's infrastructure goals. And that's all I have for you tonight. If you have any further questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Any comments or questions? Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hill.
Okay, next on our agenda is the city manager's report. None other than Murad Kabiri, our city manager.
Yes, sir. I have 6 items and then an extra item that I'll mention at the very end. Briefly, I first want to kick us off with a donation that the city of Friendswood received from the Rotary Foundation of $75,000. I will say this was an anonymous donation by an individual, longtime resident and business owner in Friendswood who did not want to be identified. So they partnered through the Rotary Foundation to make the donation. But $25,000 to the police department, $25,000 to EMS, and $25,000 to the volunteer fire department. A big thank you to the Rotary and the benefactor.
I want to applaud the Rotary. Last year they came in with $25,000 for our police with some extra vest. Just way to go, Rotary.
Yes. Going back one slide, I will hit you guys up in January for a budget amendment to supplement the funds to PD on a dispatch console that will also help serve both PD, EMS, and the VFD. So PD, Police Department, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Don't have to hear anything.
The second item on my report is the annual Lighted Christmas Parade. It's an event that's held annually by the Friendswood Chamber of Commerce. It's Saturday, December 14th, same day as Santa in the Park. Festivities for the parade will start at 6 p.m. So if you're trying to travel down 518, I would avoid it and go down Sunset or Blackhawk or somewhere else. The parade will start at Friendswood Baptist Church and will end at Stevenson Park. It's a fun event. The Christmas tree will be turned on that evening following the parade. Sidebar plug for that same day is the next slide, the Santa in the Park. It's hosted by the city and Keep Friendswood Beautiful. Festivities will kick off on the 14th at 3 p.m. and last all the way to 8 p.m. There's a number of things that will take place out there, including a snow hill and ice skating rink, I believe, which I don't know how that's possible, but we will have something out there. Sidebar plug, if you've been on social media, there may be an individual that looks a lot like me, dressed up as Buddy the Elf, on making the Christmas tree grow. That is not me, it's my evil twin, so don't make any mischaracterizations. The next item on the city manager's report is the council candidate window opens up in January for the May 2025 council election. We have 2 positions that are up, positions 4 and 6, which Councilmember Griffon spoke to earlier this evening. The first day to file is January 15th, and then the filing window closes on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Just a random coincidence. So please, if you're interested in volunteering and serving the community, please step up. For the benefit of the audience, you don't get paid as council members, which y'all know that very well, but it definitely is a noble thing to do. So I encourage people to step up. The next item is our own director of engineering led a discussion for our for a recent conference on water resiliency and planning for the future. Hill did a fantastic job. I share these events when they take place simply to let you know that these aren't just experts that work for us, that they also represent the engineering industry and other industries out there, and they're looked to as authorities in this field. And so we're grateful to have them on our team to work with us. The last item before the additional item I added was our joint GIS and Laserfish integration project. Would like to thank Dee Valdivinos and Diana Lopez. Recently undertook an effort to integrate our property records and easement records that we've had since the beginning of time, at least the beginning of Friendswood's existence in the early 60s, where we integrate the data that we have along with the actual parcel, the spatial information, so that if we're doing research trying to determine the history of the ownership of the property or what easements and assets we have out there, that we can maximize projects and partnerships, we're able to do so pretty quickly. So I'm grateful to the two of them. This is a project that's been on the books for a number of years, and I'm grateful to finally get it done. Lastly, the item that I alluded to, I mentioned in November that we were recognized by the Houston Chronicle as one of the top workplaces in 2024. Well, today we found out it will be official in March, but USA Today has recognized the city of Friendswood as a top workplace, and we will be able to advertise that designation in March of 2025. So
Well done. Congratulations.
that is thanks in large part to our staff and the incredible support we get from City Council. So thank you.
Good leadership too.
Thank you. Okay, next is our business items. Tonight, we will consider an item directing staff to develop an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, Boards, Committees, and Commissions of the Friendswood City Code to add a new section to be numbered and entitled Section 2-25, Appeals, to afford certain decisions of non-advisory boards, commissions, and/or committees to be appealed to the City Council. Murad, you had a staff summary for that first?
Just a brief one. This item was requested to be on the agenda by Councilmember Griffon. Staff is open to whatever direction council would like to share with us this evening, and with that, I'll turn it over to whatever Robert would like to say.
I'll let Councilmember Griffon.
Thank you very
go
much,
first, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Matranga, council, staff, citizens all. I'm requesting this addition to this particular Chapter 2. Mo, if you would you pull up Chapter 2, Article 2, Division 1? Is that possible?
Yes, sir. Just
Under
give me
Code
2
of
seconds.
Ordinances?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm particularly talking about the, not the advisory board, but non-advisory board positions and committees and officials. And over the last several months, I've grown increasingly frustrated over the inability of council or mayor or any of us to have a say, to have a fix, to have any input whatsoever in regards to the decisions that are made by various non-advisory board committees and commissions. One of the things that is so cumbersome the way it is right now is I get a complaint from a resident or I get a complaint from a developer, and I am limited to who I can talk to about that. I can't talk to all of y'all and say, hey, look, this has come up. This might have merit. It may not have merit. And I can only talk to one person, and maybe we go look at it on the ground and say, this is what's going on. But then we go into Mo's office, and it's like, well, we can change the ordinance. Well, then that's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's like major changes, but it can't be tweaked. And in fairness to our staff, because they're the ones that usually catch the brunt of this, and I'm specifically mentioning Becky and Aubrey, because they're so professional, but they don't have the luxury, nor do they have the ability to change any word that's inside a decision that's made by P&Z or that's made by some of the other non-advisory boards. Now, it's not fair to them because I get these calls and, oh, they're bad. Well, they're not. They're just doing their job. The only people who have that authority is us. And right now, there's no mediation. There's no way to mediate that. And what I would like to add, and it wasn't in the presentation, but I did provide you all with it, is I would like to add section 225 appeals. Appeals to city council concerning interpretation or administration by a non-advisory board may be taken to any person aggrieved by the decision of any officer, department, board, or bureau of the city affected by the decision of the administrative official or non-advisory board. Such appeals shall be filed with the city manager and sponsored by a council member with a notice of appeal specifying the grounds thereof. Now, I know it was mentioned in here that they would like to, I think that's a good starting point, but they would like to say that this must be a must before you file suit against the city. I'm reluctant to say that because I think any developer and any resident in the city of Friendswood, if they have grounds to sue, they can sue. But I would like for them to have an option, if possible, to seek mediation with us. We have the authority to change it. We have the authority that Becky and Aubrey do not have, who are the ones catching the brunt of it all. And the last thing I want to mention is rarity. Over the last 7 years, twice, well, 3 times now, I've had situations where we could have probably tweaked the ordinances a little bit and everything would have gone on just perfectly. Even if they say, you know what, developer, the merit's there, that's great and everything, but we still have the ability to sustain it or overrule it if we are allowed to allow them to appeal it. And I just feel like this is something that has been bothering me because I have not been able to have a say in it. Because what will happen is they'll go before P&Z, and P&Z goes, does this fit our future land use map? Yes, it does. And Aubrey will go through the list thing. This place has water, sewer. This place has electrical. They're going to have to qualify for pay for off-site detention. It marks the various things and it's approved, but once on the ground, things aren't exactly the way they seem. Or maybe a road was changed exactly not how it had been planned for 35 years. And if a citizen or developer comes to us and says, hey man, would you take a look at this and just look at the merits of this possible change and let us decide, because we're the ones that are elected to do it. And that really, Mo, that's my only point. That's what I want to make.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I think I'm familiar with at least one of these situations. And I was on P&Z when we actually blessed this ordinance, if you will. Let me start with this. The easy parts of Friendswood to develop have already been developed. We're down to the tough stuff. And sometimes something sounds great in theory, but in practice, sometimes it doesn't work quite as well. So I do like what Robert is saying, in that if we find that there are instances, and maybe they repeat themselves, where something we thought was the right fix or the right buffer in this situation, and maybe it's not, that we do have a chance to go back and revisit that. And I do understand what Robert's saying too. I know when I first got on P&Z, I felt a little bit handcuffed in that I could only talk to maybe 1 or 2 other people, and that was it. Otherwise, we had a quorum issue. So to be able to speak about something in a public situation sometimes is not the best. You'd like to be able to talk about it and get your information together. And if a citizen has a recourse that they know they can go and talk to one council person, and then we can discuss it, I don't really have an issue with that. So I would be in support of this avenue as long as legally we can do this. Karen?
So there's certain boards and commissions and certain decisions that we're not going to be able to do that. Like for the ZBOA, it's appealed directly to district court. So there's certain things that will not be able to come under any sort of administrative review or appeal to council. So we'll work on that and get something to you if this is what you want to do.
I would like to make one more mention about ZBOA. Right now, in any decision that's made by ZBOA is allowed to appeal it within 20 days. And there's usually, once that decision is made, I don't believe that notice is given to the person who may be aggrieved by that decision. So if we could, on every decision that we make through ZBOA, let them know at the bottom of the decision that this can be appealed within 20 days. Sometimes I think 20 days is a little tight. Should be 30 days, but I understand completely about ZBOA. I read about it, and it looks to me like if we just make sure they're aware that they have the ability to appeal the ZBOA within a certain period of time and notify them of that, then too, remember in zoning board ordinances, if a significant ordinance changes, then that original person who was zoned under that can or should be able or allowed to come back and request what they were requesting before that they didn't get in appeals in the 20-day period. Does that make any sense to you? So if all of a sudden we changed industrial and commercial and mixed the uses, that's a big change. Well, then you can go back to zoning board and adjustments and see if you can change some of the things. I think there's some things that need to be worked there too, but especially for right now, I know that as far as charter review, we always look at what charter review does. We all have a say on that, and we agree. But the others, and especially the development.
I have a couple questions. I want to make sure I understand. I mean, how many times have we, I'll look to you, Mariah, how many times, or Aubrey, if you need to stand up, but how many times has this really come up where we've needed an appeal process? Because I know I personally worked on changing ordinances back when I was on planning and zoning. So we typically handled these kind of things by working with developers, because it sounds like your main concern is planning and zoning. That's what it sounds like.
Well, I haven't had any problems with the others, but those, I did not exclude those because those are decisions that are made that affect residents and developers.
Okay, but it is, okay. But
So, I mean, it's a handful of times, but I will clarify that. I'll put an asterisk next to that. And what I mean by that is we get complaints about our rules frequently. Folks don't want to expend the additional funds to comply, or they run into an issue. Well, it's just too difficult. I would prefer not to. So some of those are just flippant complaints. Some of those have meaning to them and are legitimate. The difficulty that we have to constantly weigh is that the application of our rules must be done uniformly. We cannot be arbitrary or capricious in how we apply them. That's a violation of federal law and the Zoning Act. So anything that we adopt as a city, and it's done by this board, this city council, has to be applied uniformly. Would there be a benefit of having an appeals process? Yes. In fact, the very issue that's at discussion of what with impetus for this, that appeal was provided for in the language. We added latitude that gave the Planning and Zoning Commission the ability to require or not require the additional landscaping. Whether or not we like the decision of P&Z is anybody's opinion. If this board can intervene through an appeals process and make that change and resolve the issue and not cause another problem elsewhere, we're good with that too. I mean, or you can give it to, I would prefer you don't give it to staff, because then we get put in the middle. But if we have to give it to staff, whatever's expedient and fair and can be uniformly applied is what my recommendation would be.
Well, the buck should stop here.
I just don't see this. I mean, this is one, it sounds like some people believe that the system's broken, and I just don't see it that way, because I've personally been involved, as I said, not to be repetitive, but we have changed ordinances to help developers where it made sense to do so, where there were rules that stopped the reasonable development of their property. So I think we have a process to come before council, and council can say, let's change the rules. Because we appoint 7 really qualified people. We always bring as qualified as we can find people to sit on P&Z, and 2 people, at least up here on this dais, came out of P&Z, and past mayors and so forth. So, I think we can trust them to make good decisions, and I think it sounds like they have made good decisions in the past. So one of my concerns is, to put it in a finer point, is if we create an appeal process where every developer doesn't like our rules and just says, no, I don't want to do that, or you've changed these 6 things, but I want the 7th, and P&Z says no, based on facts, based on good engineering, good development, and working with staff, they all come to agreement and say no to that. Then if we give them an appeal process, then it's going to remove any desire by the developer to work with P&Z and work with staff. They're just going to come, they're going to take it out of what I consider a fact-finding body of P&Z, and they're going to move it, unfortunately, into more of a political, who's asking, why are they asking, who do we like, being capricious. It puts us in that spot where we could screw up and make decisions one way one time and one way another time. I think we're gutting P&Z, and why do we need them if things are going to get appealed to us? Because I think that's what's going to happen is we're going to end up with all these appeal for things like commercial site plans. We have a lot of important stuff to work on up here, and depending on which metal gets used in what location for a commercial site plan, I think that's best left to planning and zoning. That's what they do a great job of historically. So I'm not sure I see enough reason to change this, because I think if we have an issue, then let's change the ordinance. I think we've done it many, many times. Let's do it again if it doesn't make sense. That's my 2 cents.
So I think you made really good points. And I think we do have to be careful about the discriminatory nature of making those decisions. But I also think that we are the elected body, and the buck should stop here. And I think that as well and as talented as we are about writing policy and ordinances and trying to think of all the situations, there are exceptions. And so, and it's just inevitable. And I think that there are not very many, and I wouldn't want to take authority away from P&Z and have an appeals process available every time somebody disagrees with P&Z. There should be some criteria, some circumstance that warrants another look. And I totally agree with Robert that sometimes our staff members' hands are tied. They don't have the authority. Sometimes they do, and you make it happen without changing an ordinance, and sometimes you don't, or sometimes you're not comfortable doing that. And I don't know that it always requires a change in the ordinance, but I do agree with Robert, and I've been involved in one since I've been on council, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense for this particular thing, and we should be able to have that judgment. And be able to make something that makes sense, make it work. But we didn't really have a process to do that. So I think that maybe we can clean it up or give this some thought. I don't know that we have to act on this tonight. I would not be comfortable acting on this tonight. But I do think that we can think about those scenarios, talk about some of the issues that we've heard about or people that have come to us, and flesh it out. Is that the right word, flesh it out? Not flesh it out, right? It's fleshed out. Flesh it out and decide how we can handle that makes sense. That just makes sense. That's how I feel.
Mara, do we know what other cities in Galveston County have in their provisions? Do they have appeal processes from P&Z, for example, to the city council written into their rules?
We haven't done a survey, but just cursory, knowing I've been doing this for almost 25 years now in the planning related arena, and it's rare to have that appeals process, but it's not to say it can't be done. What you have before you this evening is an action item. If there's a majority of you that would like this thing to be developed further with an actual written ordinance, we can do so. In complying with our rules of procedure, that's why we brought it to you as an action item and not as an actual ordinance this evening.
I seem to recall the city of Galveston has a provision where citizens, if they meet time limits and if they're alleging that the decision made by the lower group was arbitrary and capricious, there's some hoops they have to jump through. I'd like to find out more if my memory is serving me correctly.
Yes, sir.
I would lean in. I agree with what John is saying, that maybe, and Tricia alluded to this as well, that we go back and review, maybe it's an ad hoc committee or something like that, but to come back and review this, because I do think we're onto something. I agree there are not that many situations where this comes up. I also agree with, I don't think this is a gutting of P&Z by any stretch, I'll be honest with you. But I do believe we do need some kind of a way that citizens can come and they feel that they really want to take it, I hate to say that, but to a higher court, we need to allow for that. So, but I would like to see what other cities are doing. I think benchmarking is always a good thing.
I agree. And I just want to add too that we have a budget amendment in this agenda today that we're going to approve over $180,000 in legal and litigation fees that may have been avoided by the possibility of mediating it before it went to suit.
Referring to the TERS number 2 lawsuit, which will be reimbursed by the development.
You'll see the amendment a little later.
So do we need to take a motion?
We do need a motion and a vote if y'all want this to
Who would
continue.
like to make a
but-
motion?
I would like to make a motion that the city council approve the city staff and management to staff to develop an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, Boards, Committees, and Commissions of the Friendswood City Code to add a new section to be numbered and entitled Section 225 Appeals. And I want to put my language in the minutes as written.
Second.
So can we have discussion now? Since
We've had the
I
discussion,
know,
but
but now we have
go.
a motion, so, so I think what I would prefer is that we have more research on this and have it brought back to us for discussion, not to adopt this, as Robert is proposing, but for us to discuss and study this more and have it brought back to us.
He's directing staff to develop.
So
Yeah, but to substitute it for his language too is what I
No,
He just wants those read into the minutes.
I just want my appeals language read into the minutes. Not necessarily that they have to be used.
Well, I
Okay.
would like the other cities to be polled and looked into from a legal perspective on this before I vote on it. So that's my request.
yes, sir.
Am I misunderstanding what we're voting on? I thought we were voting on developing this.
So this
Directing
evening's
staff.
Now, this motion that Robert made was a little bit more succinct, but in essence, what you're voting on is basically continuing this discussion and bringing back a draft ordinance for this body to consider. And that draft ordinance would be an amendment to our current code of ordinances allowing for an appeal. But I am hearing y'all want some additional research included in that draft ordinance, namely what other cities do relative to this. Is that accurate?
Is that okay
Yes.
with you?
Okay,
I think that's what we.
okay.
So,
Okay.
I'm sorry,
No,
just
so
to,
we have a motion and a
yeah,
second.
the motion that I have first and second is for city council to approve the direction of directing staff to research and develop an ordinance amending chapter 2 to add a new section related to appeals and to have your verbiage read into the minutes. That's what I wrote down. Is that,
Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
That's-
I think directing staff to research and develop covers the basis that Councilmember Ellisor brings up, that he would like to see the research, and also that Trish brought up too, in regards to comparisons in other city appeals.
Yes, sir.
Could you add the word research and develop?
directing staff to research and develop an ordinance amending chapter 2 of the code?
In quotes, administration, Article 2, boards, committees, and commissions of the Friendswood Code to add a new section to be numbered and entitled Section 225 Appeals. And the only thing I'm hoping is that you would just read mine into the minutes, my language. But that's the juxt of the motion.
Got it.
Are you confused? We
Well,
need to get this right.
well, I'm just making sure that I have the motion accurately. You're directing staff to research and develop an ordinance amending chapter 2 to add a section related to appeals, right?
Correct.
And so that's the motion, and you would like your verbiage as you read noted in the minutes verbatim.
Perfect.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Does that match your second? Is that-
Yes.
Okay.
And my apologies for not including your
Well, I
verbiage
noticed
in the
that it
back of
wasn't
material.
included in the backup material, and I wish that it had been. That way,
That's
all the
my
council
fault.
would have had a chance to read
Okay.
what I had written.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Okay, thank
All,
you.
all opposed? The motion passes. Okay, next on our agenda are ordinance and resolutions. First is to consider on second and final reading an ordinance amending Appendix D, Schedule of Fees, Rates, Charges, Deposits, Bond, and Insurance Amounts of the Friendswood City Code to update certain fees. Murad, would you give us a summary, please?
Yes, sir. Last month, y'all voted on two separate ordinances, or two separate votes on an ordinance to amend Chapter or Appendix D of the Code of Ordinances related to fees for utility rates, related to public information fees associated with body-worn cameras, and then also park reservation fees. Both those votes were positive to move the item forward to second reading. They were not unanimous votes. So the second reading of the exact same, there's been no material changes in anything, no changes whatsoever. It's for that same ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, now, if I recall correctly, I had this separated out into separate voting items. Is that necessary to do again tonight?
It's not necessary, but if you would like it to be done again, you're welcome to. It will still be one ordinance, assuming it passes.
It was written as one ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I would like to separate I would just like to separate the public works and water fees, that section, from the rest of the section.
Okay, and that's your first motion?
That's my motion.
Okay.
So we provided language
Right.
Yeah.
anticipating.
Let me try this and see if this
Oh,
works
good.
for you.
Okay,
So listen.
Thank you.
No. It's Letty and company. Do I have a motion to approve the addition of the fees related to body camera footage and proposed amendments to the Parks and Recreation facility fees?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
I think
No.
I-
I'm sorry.
Wait,
Did I not?
I might have messed up on that one.
Okay.
So,
No, this
Okay.
is,
that's just to separate?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. That,
No,
Yes,
no.
I agree
Well-
with that.
no, so,
No, I
Yes.
separated it and did just a
Yes.
body camera. and-
Unanimous.
Okay,
okay,
we have unanimous.
all right.
And before we go to the next one, could you go to the study that was provided to the city?
Yes, sir. Hold on. Yes, sir.
Guarantees, let's go to acknowledgements. Right down a little bit further, acknowledgements. They're acknowledging that all the information that was given to them in regards to this study, most of it, if not all, was provided by our staff. Any of the national escalations were, of course, done by their research, and they can make no guarantees whatsoever in human behavior, how people will react when their water rates go up, and if, in fact, you will see any of the revenue projections that they are projecting in this study, which we have done over time after time. It's been great. I think we spent $17,000 on this study to show each of y'all that we have to raise our rates to make sure that we get our revenue to cover our capital improvement projects, which we just went through with Hill, and virtually all of them we seek partners with, and very few of them do we pay more than 50%. You will have noticed that repainting the water tower for $1.9 million was a sole expense, but virtually all of our capital improvement projects we seek outside help. And I do see that we have $106 million in capital improvement projects, and they have given us a 10-year study, but they don't even want us to go out more than 3. And I would like to scroll down now to the portion where they do sample sizes of 10,000 gallons of water. We did, okay, stop, that's a good one. Go down. Okay, this one right here is a comparison. First of all, 10,000 gallons of water a month. I don't know anyone in Friendswood that only uses 10,000 gallons of water a month and 5,000 gallons of wastewater. But you'll see here that we pay less. I mean, we pay more than Katy, Webster, Rosenberg, League City, and about the exact same as Sugar Land. But when we go to wastewater, let's go look at this average. Next down, wastewater.
That includes the wastewater and water fees are included in that combination.
Let's go to the average state average
State
Okay.
average is right here.
Yeah, right. Up at the very top is Friendswood. You'll
sir.
see our wastewater is 49.41 cents. Is that, could you blow that up a little?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So our wastewater is higher than the state average. Virtually everybody except for Pearland and Alvin, wastewater on sample average is around 38. Why do we pay so much for wastewater? I'm not sure I understand why we do that.
So in answering all your questions, first off on the acknowledgements, all the information provided by staff are the projects that we have in the next 5 to 10 year window. We're the only proprietors of that information, knowing the contracts we have with the city of Houston, the agreements we have in place with Gulf Coast Authority for our wastewater. We didn't dictate what the prices or the fees should be. We just said these are all the projects we have in the next 5 years and then the next 10 years. Now, of course, the consultant's going to look at national trends based upon cost escalations with constructions, et cetera. We have $140 million worth of projects in the next 5 years. The partnerships that we have were one-offs. ARPA was COVID related. We're not going to, unless we have another COVID, we're not going to have a situation where the feds are going to give us 100% dollars towards our water and sewer. Now, even those grants, ARPA funds are accounted for in this study. So those dollars that we're spending on the 24-inch water line and the ground storage tank at surface water plant number 1, they are not being counted towards the rate study. Those are subtracted out of the 140. The reason Katy is cheaper than Friendswood is because they're on groundwater. So back in the early 1990s, the state of Texas created the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District and stipulated Friendswood and all the areas in Harris County and in Galveston County need to go on surface water sources, not on groundwater sources. Unfortunately, surface water requires far more treatment and cost 2 to 1 the price of groundwater, where you just draw water out of the ground, and 90% of the time it's sufficiently treated to where you can pump it to your consumers. Our wastewater and our water costs are all a function of our own infrastructure. So we are in partnership with the City of Houston, Harris County Mud 55, Baybrook Mud number 1, and Friendswood all own the Black Hawk wastewater treatment plant. None of those other entities, League City, Sugarland, Rosenberg, they have no affiliation with our Black Hawk wastewater treatment plant because geographically it wouldn't make sense. And so our costs are a function of our regional facilities, where they have their cost of their own regional facilities, whether they're operating on a package plant, which is a temporary facility that they sometimes let last for 30 years, or they have a regional plant that's permanent. The costs vary. So for instance, when we did our I&I study 8 or 9 years ago, and of the 4 participants in that Black Hawk plant, we were the biggest violators of that. It wasn't because we were bad people. It had to do simply with the function that our sanitary sewer infrastructure was far older than Baybrook Mud number 1's because they're a brand new system, far newer than anything that's built in the city of Houston, because the things that are built in Houston that go to that plant are within the last 20 years built versus our infrastructure in Forest Bend that was built in the 70s and 80s. So we share these cost comparisons simply to give you a rough idea of how we compare with other agencies, but one thing is true, it's not always apples to apples comparison. I will say the 80% or more of our users are in the 10,000 gallon a month for water and 5,000 for sewer. My bill every 2 months, because we bill every 2 months, is $200. So I'm right there in that $95 range, and I'm not unique. The costs that are drafted are based upon penalizing people to use more water. It's intended to encourage conservation. Whether you agree with that ideologically, it's intended that way so that we don't end up in a situation where we're short on water.
Why in the comparison of water and wastewater, if you'll go down, they used 6 homes and 4 homes for wastewater? Why did we do that? And we came out with totals versus using the same 6 homes on both. I think it's down a little bit further. You'll see, 6 and 4. You see the second line on. I think that's customers total. Why did we use a sample study?
So those aren't using 4 for wastewater and 6 for water. So what's included on that list is residents that are inside our jurisdiction that use our water and residents that are outside our jurisdiction. So we have 6 water connections outside the city that are on our system and have been since 2021, and we anticipate them continuing. And we only have 4 customers outside of our city that use our wastewater. So it's not, the sample sizes are of the totality of the system. We looked at the same number of sample sizes, both for water and sewer.
Oh, and so you just delineated those outside of our system that are using our system?
Correct. So that,
not a sample size. Okay, gotcha.
Yes, sir.
And behavioral, I believe that the biggest anomaly of all is behavior. I mean, once you raise prices so high, people will stop using your water. They'll conserve. They'll just. And at some point, you escalate the cost so much they can't afford the water, and then you're cutting off your nose to spite your face, because you're going to get less money instead of more money if you charge less for it. It's kind of the old adage. I consider a fees a tax. If you want less use of it, you tax it more, and if you want more use of it, you tax it less. And there has to be an equilibrium there, a point somewhere there that you will actually get more revenue from fees, or what I call taxes, at a lower rate than if you keep escalating. Under this study, every 3 years it goes up, and that's even with the fact that we have automated meters that have a lot more efficacy in the volumetrics that's being shown, because we have a chart that showed as soon as we got there on, volumes jumped up. But we didn't go and say, okay, let's raise it 5% from where we used to collect the volumetrics. We went here and said 5%, 5%, 5%. We just took that as new volumetrics, and you'll see that that chart also. That's my belief on. I think we charge too much money for water, and I think we charge too much money for wastewater, and I'm opposed to raising the rates on the citizens of Friendswood.
Well, please.
So I see water as a critical commodity. This is an infrastructure issue to me, and being well prepared to meet the future and current. The experts who did this study are not making money on raising our rates. They're just giving us their expert opinion on what it will take for us to continue to be in a safe and secure position to provide water for our community. I know that there were some decisions made decades ago that were controversial as well for Friendswood, and thank goodness they did. And so I think that, yes, my husband likes to water our grass, and I get an alert, and I keep kind of fussing at him. We're using too much water, but you can control that, and it is something I think we all in the whole country, the whole world probably, we need to be more cognizant of that and to protect this infrastructure. So I don't have a problem with this. I mean, I don't like it, but I don't have a problem with it.
We do have a contract with a finite amount, correct?
Yes, so we have a contract for a finite amount of water from the City of Houston Southeast Water Purification Plant, and we have a contract for a finite amount of wastewater that we send to the Gulf Coast Authority's Black Hawk Wastewater Treatment Plant. In those contracts, we also have a requirement for how much we contribute to capital replacements in the facilities when they age. Black Hawk was built in the 70s, so it's pushing a 50-year lifespan. Actually, it was built in 74, so 50 years this year. And we don't have the ability to change gears and go at it alone. So for instance, if we wanted to have do our own water provision, we'd have to secure water rights, which are non-existent in our region. They've been spoken for 30 years. Thankfully, our predecessors, several councils and staff ago, secured our water rights to build out. So we have no other options. On sewer, we'd have to get our own permit from TCEQ for the treatment of sewer and the effluent being put back into the creek. Each of those plants alone are an order of magnitude $100 to $150 million a piece. So we wouldn't be able to financially afford doing that on our own, even if we were able to secure the water rights somehow.
Okay, so we've got no, we don't. So our second vote. Do I have a motion to amend the fee schedule to update certain fees within the following categories? automated water meter fees and utility rates consistent with the 2024 utility rate study as presented to the City Council on June 3rd, 2024, and to remove the manual water meter fees.
I second.
Well, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Wait, three, yeah. Well, okay. Yes, it did. Yes, correct. Thank you, Trish. School teacher coming in and out.
Just the majority.
Right,
Just the
right,
majority.
right.
Higher math.
Yep, for some of us. Okay, next is 9B, to consider an ordinance amending the city's general budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 by approving budget amendment 12 and providing for supplemental appropriation and or transfer of certain funds. Any questions, comments, discussion?
Just one item of note regarding the comments that were made earlier on the legal fees of $180,000. $73,000 of dollars were for the creation of the TERS and the subsequent agreements associated with it, which are being paid for by the revenue generated by the TERS, only the properties inside the TERS, not outside. The other $107,000 that we incurred in litigation fees associated with the lawsuit, again, all are going to be paid for by the TERS revenue, so we will be reimbursed those costs.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Shows to be unanimous. Motion passes. 9C is to consider an ordinance amending the city's general budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 by approving budget amendment 3 and providing for supplemental appropriations and or transfer of certain funds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. 9D is to consider a resolution casting its votes in the election of members of the Board of Directors of the Galveston Central Appraisal District 2025. Murad, do you have a summary for this?
Yes, you may recall we discussed this back in October, and the Galveston County Appraisal District had sent out a ballot for its members or entities within its jurisdiction to recommend a slate of characters. We did, not characters, my apologies.
Freudian slip.
Freudian slip. A slate of individuals. Y'all nominated the existing board of directors this evening. Since no single entity has the ability to approve and vote in a single person in that on that board, we have to partner with other agencies. I believe that we have discussed this with the Friendswood Independent School District, and they've asked us to support Scott Brast, who's currently on the board, to represent our area of Northern Galveston County on the Appraisal District Board.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the proposed resolution casting the city's 123 votes for Scott Brast?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Just a quick question as far as discussion goes. Is there any way we could split up all 123 votes, or is it just something we always do, just consider it 123 for one person? I saw Matt Doyle, he's a fraternity brother of mine. I wouldn't mind giving him a third. And
so there's
the mayor of Santa Fe, I wouldn't mind giving her a third. I'm just wondering why we just do 123.
So that we can make sure, do you want to answer it or do you want me to? So
I
that we
want
can
you to
make
answer.
sure that people get on. Because if you dilute your votes, you may not get, an individual may not get enough to serve on the board. So there are other places that, like Mr. Doyle, he is getting his votes that he needs
That's just assured.
from someplace else. Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. We're assuring.
Yes, we're hoping to with, the person that we're nominating, we hope will get it. And when we go in
I was
with
just
FISD.
asking if you could separate it.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that.
You legally can separate them, but Councilmember Hanks is accurate in that since no single agency can guarantee any individual be placed on the board,
The county can.
we need to partner with other agencies, and Scott is the Northern Galveston County representative.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. we come to our consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
All in favor? Motion passes.
Hey, Mo, on that, just as a side note for the public's information, tell
No,
him,
not yet.
Okay.
I was just going to ask him to mention our A&M representative. I
Sure.
thought that was a pretty cool thing.
So briefly, there was an item on the drainage
it's cool.
or on the consent agenda. And don't worry, we like UT as well, Councilmember.
Oh, well.
No, I know, but
Football game that went on Saturday night.
yes.
Okay, we're going to adjourn this quickly if you keep this up.
No,
is pretty nice, though.
Simply, the Texas A&M, and I forget the proper term for it, but they have a program in place that we can send some of our resources to other agencies, as may be the case. And in doing so, Texas A&M will pay for that. One particular issue that it could come up, and the proper group is the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service. The city of Laredo recently had an issue with E. coli in their water system. And they needed some assistance in identifying the source and asked for resources from all across the state. We were going to send an employee for an extended period of time to help them resolve the issue, in which case Texas A&M would have paid the cost of that employee so that we're not out any money while they're gone. Thankfully, they were able to locate the issue and work towards resolving it, so we didn't have to send somebody, but we thought it'd be a good idea to have this agreement in place beforehand, should this come up again in the future. Because God knows if we need some assistance, we'd like others to be able to
A
come to
great
our
learning
rescue.
experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, before somebody says anything, meeting adjourned.